Hi, everyone. Bienvenidos to La Hora del Mitote. We thank you for joining us tonight. La Hora del Mitote is transmitted on our Facebook page here at Teatro Visión, our YouTube channel, and on Channel 30 through Crea TV. I'm going to show the link for that for anybody who wants to join. We invite you to participate by sending us your questions and comments through Facebook or on YouTube. We'll get them right on here and we'll show them up on the screen for anybody who participates. I'm Jacob. I'm the Community Engagement and Marketing Manager for Teatro Visión, and I'm your host for tonight's edition of La Hora del Mitote. For many of you, it might be your first time meeting me. It's a joy to be a part of the Teatro Visión community here with you today. I want to start us off tonight by acknowledging that we occupy the ancestral homeland of the Muwekma Ohlone people who continue to live and thrive in our local community today. Me gustaría comenzar reconociendo que ocupamos la tierra ancestral del pueblo Muwekma Ohlone que continúa viviendo y prosperando en nuestra comunidad local hoy. Today, we're chatting with Valley Verde because our production of Macario is coming back up this October. Since its premiere in 2013, each production that we've done of Macario has been an opportunity for us to uplift the ongoing fight to achieve food sovereignty and security in our San Jose communities. The production highlights themes of food insecurity, and each time we've done kind of conversations and programming around these issues to kind of continue highlighting them. Alongside this production, we're highlighting local organizations who are at the forefront of this work. And today, we have the pleasure of chatting with Rita and Lovepreet from Valley Verde. Valley Verde, welcome, Rita and Lovepreet. Valley Verde is an organization that works directly with families in Silicon Valley across a range of programs that emphasize food sovereignty, local connections to land and agricultural resources, and culturally preferred herbs and vegetables. And Lovepreet and Rita will tell us a whole lot more in just a moment. Rita is Valley Verde's Deep Roots and Shared Garden Program Manager. She was born and raised in Eastside San Jose and attended Evergreen Valley College before transferring to San Jose State University. Rita is a recent graduate of SJSU, where she received her Bachelor of Science in Environmental Studies with a minor in Sustainable Water Resource and focus in agriculture. Lovepreet is Valley Verde's Interim Executive Director. As an Interim Executive Director, she's responsible for managing Valley Verde and fundraising. She has a degree in health science, and she's passionate about helping others. Rita and Lovepreet, welcome. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry to see we've lost Lovepreet for a moment. Rita, maybe I'll start off. I just kind of wanted to know a little bit about what brought you and Lovepreet to Valley Verde's work and kind of what the impact of that work has been in your own lives a little bit.
So I was volunteering with La Mesa Verde, and La Mesa Verde does similar work as Valley Verde. And so I was really excited to hear that there was a job opening in Valley Verde because I was already volunteering for the work. So why not get paid for it, right? And it's something that I have a passion for. So once I heard, I applied, and here I am now with Valley Verde. And it's something that I love doing is, collaborating and communicating and engaging with the community.
Thank you.
So I actually grew up on a farm. So when I was born in India and raised in India as well. So when one of my friends actually emailed me the position at Valley Verde, and it was kind of shocking to see like there was like an actually organization in the middle of San Jose that was growing food and teaching families to grow their own food. And that just really called out to me because when I came to the US, I didn't see a lot of the vegetables that I grew up eating back home. So like just seeing that like Valley where they was focused on that, trying to connect people to their culture really called out to me. So I applied for the position and it's like super excited since about the multi-ethnic seedlings aspect of it. So
that's great. It's lovely to hear about kind of how you both got connected to this work at Valley Verde in particular. I was wondering if you could each talk a little bit about some of the main issues in the San Jose area, especially around like growing vegetables and growing food in an urban space and making those connections to communities. What like issues that Valle Verde is seeking to address here in the city of San Jose and in the greater Silicon Valley?
Yeah. So a lot of families that we work with, they've either tried gardening before by themselves, or they haven't really like had access to like seedlings. So the families that come into this program are underserved families that are living like at least a mile or more away from any like grocery stores. They can't. There's nothing walking distance. So we really want to be able to increase that food access. So that is one of the biggest issues for us, increasing access for these families to like fresh, organic, and multi-ethnic seedlings. We want to be able to help them like build some self-sufficiency and not have to rely on constantly going out to like a nursery to go buy something that, or sorry, not a nursery but like a grocery store to buy something, or not being able to access that seedling, right? Like there's a lot of like nurseries that don't have multicultural vegetables or even seedlings. So we want to be able to change that. So those are like some of the areas that we address.
Yeah, definitely. And other areas that we address are, you know, families that aren't able to actually grow vegetables at home because the lack of space, or they live in apartments, or they just don't have the space to have a garden bed, or they don't have a front yard or a backyard. So Valley Verde is always trying to find a way to accommodate families that are interested in growing their vegetables at home by either vertical gardening, container gardening. And one of the future goals that Valley Verde has is to have a Valley Verde community garden, where if they're interested in the program, they can, and they don't have the space, they can grow within Valley Verde's community garden on site.
That's wonderful. Yeah, that would be great to have like a centralized base that people can come together. Um, I know from a conversation with Lovepreet that you um, are in the process of perhaps finding a new space, but you have a space where you're doing, um, especially work in composting and work in where you um, host your seedling garden. Can you talk a little bit more about that space and how people are able to kind of interact with Valle Verde and your work there?
Yeah, we are actually located in downtown San Jose. Um, we have four greenhouses on site, and we have our offices on site as well. We also have a demonstration garden, and hopefully, Rita's actually working on building a compost bin, so we will be able to start like accepting food scraps. So any community member that wants to contribute to composting but doesn't have the space, or doesn't have the means to do it, they can actually bring the food scraps to us and we will compost, and they can actually either take the compost home and put it in their garden, or they can choose to just just give us food scraps, I guess, to help mitigate some of that. Some of the food scraps from going to landfills and being able to minimize the greenhouse effects on that. So that's kind of how we use it. And one of the other things we do have on the side is a home garden nursery where we grow seedlings for sale. So
Oh no. Lovepreet, I'm so sorry. I think we've lost you for a moment.
Yeah, so we'll continue explaining a little bit of the other programs that we have at Valley Verde. So with the shared garden program, we are actually recruiting for next year, and we are recruiting. It's a 1 year program where the participant or the family that's interested in growing their own vegetables at home, we provide all the resources and materials necessary to be able to grow their own vegetables at home. And we do have a workshop once a month, step by step, of how to prepare your area where you're going to put your garden bed, from how to harvest your first harvest. So that is the shared garden program. So it's the basic gardening, and it's a 1 year program. And then after they're done with that program, they have the option to go into the Deep Roots program. The Deep Roots program is an advanced gardening, so advanced composting, advanced seedling growing, pruning trees, fruit trees, working with different plants other than just vegetables, like fruit trees or fruit bush or berries and stuff like that. So that's the Deep Roots program. And then afterward, I don't know if Lovepreet mentioned, because she was cutting out a little bit, but it's the Super Jardineros program, which is like teaching our participants how to grow commercial quality seedlings so they can have their own micro business, maybe at a farmer's market, or selling from home, or online, or however they want to do it. But showing them how to grow quality seedlings at a mass majority, a good number of seedlings, and for them to be quality seedlings. And then we also buy those seedlings back from them, so they are profiting from the program, and our first year participants are also profiting from what the Super Jardineros are growing. So it's just a big circle. And then we are, as Lovepreet had mentioned, we have started up actually this month a composting program that we're getting together, and the public can bring in their food scraps to us. We compost it, and in return they receive the compost. So that's something that's going to be opening up very, very soon, and I'm very excited about it. Lovepreet, I don't know if you wanted to add anything else about our programming. I talked about the shared garden, Deep Roots, and Super Jardineros, and a little bit about composting.
We also have a demonstration garden on site that we actually use for families that either have never gardened before or are just curious about like how much space a vegetable seedling will take. So it's a way for like community members to come and actually get involved. Like they can actually help like maintain the garden beds with us, and kind of see like what the vegetables look like as they grow as well. The other purpose we have for that is trying to save seeds. We like a lot of the seeds that are really like hard to find, or something that we found but was like extremely expensive. Like we want to also build self-sufficiency for ourselves, so it's a way for us to actually save those seeds in there.
Yeah, I imagine that preserving seeds and exchanging seeds is an important part of kind of maintaining this kind of sustainably into the future, and continuing this work as an ongoing process. I know you recently had a seed swap event in collaboration with other groups. Is that right? Do you want to talk a little bit about kind of how that went, and what kind of what the thought behind that work was?
So I think it's the event that I attended to. Is that the one, Lovepreet? Okay, so yes. So La Mesa Verde invited us to their swapping event. So we went there and we took seeds that we saved from our produce that we grew in the demonstration gardens. And it was seeds like okra or loofah seeds that you don't really see like in the nursery. So we shared those with other vendors, or not, other people that were there sharing their seeds. And we swapped out, talked a bit, collaborated, had similar interest about growing healthy food and how to do it, and talked about like how the seedlings grew for us. So one thing that we didn't mention, in the shared garden, we actually this year we decided to go through four different hemispheres, well, the four hemispheres of where to get our seeds from to meet different ethnicities, different cultures, and to what they grow in their homeland. So we were able to get seeds from those locations, grow it, see if they're able to grow here in our region. And if they did, great. And then we provided them to our current participants where they were able to select between the four different grids that we have, planting grids of which one they wanted to grow. So they had that option. I'm sorry, I think I got off topic, but it was really great to be there at the seed swap. I did see some seeds there that I did not know about. And one of them was, I think it was like a little onion type of thing, and it grew like in clusters, and I've never seen it before. It looked like a little onion, but it was bunched up in a little cluster. And the young lady was telling me that they eat the greens, that they chop it up, and the greens just keep growing. And I don't remember the name of it, but if she sees this, she'll maybe shout out and let us know what it is.
Thank you also to everybody who's just joining into La Hora del Mitote. We invite you to participate by sending us your questions or comments. We'll happily read them out. If you know what that plant was, let us know. Muchas gracias a todos que se han conectado a la hora del mitote. Por favor, pueden participar en esta plática mandándonos sus preguntas y comentarios. Los leeremos aquí esta noche. Muchas gracias. You both have talked a little bit about kind of growing seeds, kind of in growing plants here in this environment that might not grow as well in different places, and also kind of what it means to be growing a garden in like limited space or without access to like a community garden, which kind of exacerbates the issues that people who are already living at distance from grocery stores and distance from access to healthy food face. Kind of those issues compound. Can you talk about a little bit about how Valle Verde's work in particular kind of helps address those kind of overlapping issues, and how people who might not have a ton of space to grow in their homes, or how they can participate in this work?
Yeah, right now we are still trying to figure out, like, so the one way that we are trying to help with that situation is we're partnering with schools, some elementary schools, that we really want children to like learn as they grow. So like, elementary kids, they get super excited, and a lot of them don't know where food comes from, right? Like they'll see a vegetable and they're like, they might think it's coming from a tree, or a carrot is growing on a tree. And a lot of people have that misconception of like where things are, where their food is coming from and how the vegetables are growing. So we want to be able to teach the like smaller like kids as well, like, hey, this is where it comes from, but also be able to connect them to their culture at the same time, like something that like maybe their grandparents came here and their parents were born here and they were born here, and they have lost that culture in that process of growing up here. So like being able to connect them and say like, so there's no generation eventually that says, I have no idea what a chayote is, I have no idea what a bear melon is, right? Like we want to be able to keep that culture a part of us, and being able to help families connect to that. So schools that have been partnering with us in the local area actually are interested in working with us as well. So we provide raised beds at the site, like at the school site. So they are actually willing to let some families, like depending on how much space they also have, like families that are interested but don't have space at home, to be able to use like one of their raised beds to grow the food. So it's kind of like if they can rotate and they can help each other out. So that's like one way that we are trying to do that. The other option that we are still trying to explore is like, how can we encourage families to be able to grow something even if they don't have like as much space. So we do like smaller raised beds. We have 2x4s, and if they still don't have space for that, we are considering like looking into how can we do some container gardening. So if families, that's the only option that they have. And even if that's not working, maybe like talking to our neighbors, right? Like sometimes we grow so much, we get so excited as gardeners that we overgrow all the vegetables and we don't need them, right? Like we're not going to be able to eat like 70 pounds of like tomatoes. It's not humanly possible. So you can like encouraging them to like share that, with other families, like maybe their friends, maybe their neighbors, and being able to exchange. And like I do that with my neighbor. She grows like certain vegetables, and I grow certain vegetables, and we'll share. Like it's like, oh, here you can have some of this, and I can have some of that. So just encouraging it that in that way as well. I think that's like really important for us. It's not just about like giving access to food, but actually teaching them how to sustain themselves. Like I was going to add on earlier to the seed swap, like the importance of that is we don't want families to just learn how to grow something from a seedling. That like we've already done that work, right? Like we've germinated the seed and we planted and it's big enough and they can plant that in their garden. We actually really want them to learn, how do you get a seed, how do you save a seed, and how do you then plant it and take care of it from the beginning all the way until you harvest, because that's the only way you're going to learn how to be self-sufficient and not have to rely on some, even like on Valley Verde, to keep providing that like seedling, keep providing you that food. Like you want to be able to do that on your own, and also encourage your kids to do the same.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's great. One thing that I wanted to share also, what Lovepreet had mentioned, this year, um, well, we encourage our families to engage with each other and to share their stories of how their garden is going, and also to share pictures. And because we do everything right now as a hybrid, some in-person class and then some online classes, and we do it through Google Classroom. So we have like a little classroom group, and they share pictures and they share or they ask questions, and we encourage that because someone might be intimidated to ask a question, but if someone asks, then everybody else knows, like, okay, why do I have aphids, or are these aphids? And if they put it on the classroom, then everybody will see, like, oh, I had that question, but was timid to ask. And by encouraging the families to engage with another and to talk and share, we ended up finding out that two of the families were lived like 3 houses down from each other. So now they share what they grow. Well, I got a lot of cucumbers, and well, I got a lot of squash. So they just walk a few houses down and they exchange. Or do you have seeds of this? And she'll be like, no. Do you have seeds of this? And so that's community building, and it's all through gardening.
That's beautiful. I mean, it's amazing to see like how people are able to like learn together and grow together and kind of rely on each other a little less than on kind of an outside corporation providing food and or outside supply. Kind of on that note, I'm curious like if you've seen what kinds of impacts you've seen in terms of um, people's ability to achieve a little bit more sovereignty in terms of how they grow their food, whether they're able to, the extent to which people are able to. Uh, I imagine that there's kind of a changed relationship between that people have with their food versus after they've started kind of growing their own versus have you noticed like a change in reliance on grocery stores and convenience stores and going out to eat and that kind of a thing?
Yeah, definitely. We actually do pre and post surveys for our programming. So before they start the program, they answer the questions about like, do they have access to fresh organic vegetables? Like, do they know how to like cook them in a nutritional like, sorry, do they know the nutritional value of it, and do they know how to cook it in like different ways that they can get the most benefit out of it? Or um, and at the end of the year, like once they've gone through the program, they get asked the same exact questions like, did you see any improvement in these? And everyone says yes, like they've seen it, because they're literally able to walk right to their backyard or to their front yard and pick those vegetables and being able to eat them and grow them. And some families even tell us like their kids were not willing to try some of the vegetables before, but because they're actually helping take care of them, they're seeing them grow, they're like more excited to try something that they would not have normally tried. Like it's really amazing to see like that like impact even at that level. But I think the biggest like one that like we've also seen is, as soon as families start like being given the option, like Rita was talking about earlier, we have the different grids. If they can choose what seedlings they want to grow, what they want to try, they're more willing to say like, even though I grew up eating these, I actually also want to try this. And they're more open to trying out different things, and they're like, oh, I want to learn how to do this, I can you share a recipe for this or that. So that gets really exciting for them. And in a way, like we're hoping that that will give them that like it's sense of like, hey, I don't have to like wait for like someone to constantly like give me this. I can actually ask for it and say like, I grew up eating this, I want to grow this, can you like increase that demand and like put more pressure on like the nurseries to say this is what I'm interested in eating. Like don't give me what you think I want to eat or what you want to give me like to eat, right? Like I want to choose what I want to grow and eat. So
Mhm. That addresses kind of like the lack of choice that there really is in like grocery stores, like kind of giving it feels like Valle Verde is really giving a new meaning and a new level of agency to the people you're in contact with.
Yeah. Well, not only that, but you know what you're growing. So you know what you're putting in your soil and what you're getting from your vegetables, the benefits that you're getting from the vegetables. And one thing Lovepreet also mentioned was recipes. We provide our monthly workshop. We give the families recipes. So if they grew cauliflower and this is their first time trying it or showing interest in it because they picked it off their grid and they don't really know how to cook it or how to eat it, we give recipes to the families. We provide recipes and they try it out and they share and they send pictures and look, I made the recipe. And or they'll bring it. So sometimes we have little potlucks and they'll bring the recipe to share with everyone. And those evaluations, the pre and the post evaluations that we send out, sometimes we receive, that they would like to buy organic food, but it's expensive. They can't afford it. So they're actually getting organic foods and they're not paying the cost for it. And it's right in their
Mhm.
backyard. So they don't even have to get in a car and drive to the grocery store and spend gas because gas prices right now are crazy. They're saving on that and they're just walking to their backyard or their front yard and just harvesting what they've grown. And they already know the benefits that they're reaping in their food because they planted it themselves. And we teach organic methods where there's no pesticides or no herbicides. Everything's organic, and we promote them to bring in those natural pollinators.
Mhm. That that's excellent because like such a barrier to like healthy, like even the healthiest versions of vegetables is just the high cost of organic foods and the high cost of foods even at farmers markets. Plus, as you mentioned, the cost of transportation to get to those different places that aren't usually located so close to people's homes. Um, yeah, that's excellent work. Um, I just want to thank everybody again who's joining us now at La Hora del Mitote. We're here with Rita and Lovepreet from Valle Verde. Uh, Go ahead and send us in your questions and comments if you have any as you're listening in. We love hearing any thoughts you might have, especially anybody who might have participated in Valle Verde's work. We'd love to hear. Um, you've both talked a lot about kind of like the educational programs and the kind of it sounds like there's kind of a multi-generational learning happening at Valle Verde, like working with kids, working with their families. Um, can you talk a little bit about like what you've mentioned? Like kids are learning to love vegetables because they're growing them themselves. Um, I'm curious how you've seen kind of those relationships with between family members kind of change around food and yeah, I'm curious to know a little bit more about kind of that multi-generational aspect, whether parents have learned something from what their kids are learning as well.
Rita, do you want to answer?
Sure. So part of the shared garden program is we partnership with different schools, and we give them, seedlings for their gardens. And if they don't have gardens on sites, we provide them with beds and seedlings so they can teach the students how to garden. And they incorporate gardening into the curriculum. So not only are the students learning about gardening, engaging, we are on the background, we're recruiting their parents into the program so they could have gardens at home. So when the student is like coming home and with a little cherry tomato and they're like, look, mommy, we grew this in the garden at school. and they start talking and sharing with the parent, like, oh, we did this and we cut this, and they start engaging with the same interests about gardening. And sometimes a lot of children, they don't like tomatoes or onions. I think those are the two big things that they prefer not to eat. But when they're growing it, they get that curiosity, like, well, I grew this, I want to taste it. And then they're gonna see, like, oh, it's not as bad as I thought. And some kids will still not like it, but but that doesn't mean the parents won't eat it. So the engagement is even wider, broader within the family, because they're learning it at school and they're bringing that information to their parent. And maybe they have an aphid infestation at home, and the children already talked about it, so they'll bring it to their mom and they'll be like, Mom, use soapy water, because that's what I learned at school. So it's a really great program, where everybody's engaging, and children, their minds are like sponges. They absorb all the information and they just love to share.
The other thing I would add is like sometimes like we have um, parents like they are taking care of like their elderly parents, like adults, and because their parent is actually interested in gardening, even though they might not be, they have to help them, right? Like they're like, well, you can't do everything yourself. So even that like motivates them to like want to like go help, and they get more engaged and they get more excited. But the other thing, like if we really think about the fact that like when our food is coming, and if it's not local, then it's not getting picked at the right time, so it loses some of that flavor. So when you're growing something at your own home, it will taste different than what you've like eaten at the store. So there's actually people that maybe didn't like something, but because they grew it like, and they are like, oh, this is completely different, it tastes completely different than what I thought like it would taste like, and they start eating it in that sense, and it becomes more of like, oh, okay, it's not just like just because I grew it, but it actually has a good flavor. I really like it, and
Yeah.
this is what it's supposed to taste like, right?
Right. Yeah, it's a lot easier to enjoy vegetables when you can enjoy their full flavor, by knowing how to cook them through the recipes that you offer, and by having vegetables that are just fuller flavored to begin with. Um, you both have also talked a little bit about kind of the importance of culturally appropriate food to Valle Verde, and kind of how Valle Verde hopes to kind of maintain connections between people and their cultural diets and that kind of a thing.
Mhm.
Um, I'd love to know a little bit about kind of how Valle Verde works to leverage the cultural knowledge that people already have, the cultural knowledge that the people at Valle Verde bring, in order to kind of keep pushing for and further food sovereignty issues.
Yeah, the families that we work with, like from the previous cohort, because they get so excited, they'll start telling us more vegetables that they grew up eating, or like their parents have mentioned to them that we didn't offer, because, well, because we're not aware of every single like vegetable, right? So that's one way that we've been able to do that. And there's also like when we're working with like, when, because we opened our homeland nursery, there's a lot of customers that walk in and say like, hey, I want to eat this, like, do you have this or not? So we are constantly like getting those questions of like, do you have this? I'm looking for this, I can't find it anywhere else. And then we start testing that out at our nursery and saying, okay, like let's see if it actually grows here. Do like we don't want to give something and say yes, 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 like of course we'll grow it, it sprouts, but then it's not going to give you anything. That kind of defeats the whole purpose of food, right? Like you're not going to get anything out of it. So we really want to make sure that it's actually producing the vegetable or whatever they were looking for, they're actually able to have access to that. And the other part of it is, it's not, we don't see ourselves as the educators, we're not the ones that hold all the knowledge. It's a shared knowledge, right? Like they have information that they share with us, and we have information that we share with them, and we continue to learn from each other, and we continue to grow. And even like sometimes like they'll say like, oh, I was talking to someone back home and they mentioned this vegetable, and I told them about this vegetable and they got excited and they told me about something else. So in that way, like we're able to get more like vegetable like options than we know, like we have the time to research and put that into place like every single year. So
Mhm.
And also, learning cultural backgrounds of what families grow and eat in their homeland. And when, like Lovepreet said, we bring it to our nursery, we test it out, we grow it, and we see if it can be sustainable in our region. And once we get to that point, like, okay, we can give this to our families, other families become interested in trying other culturally food. So we do an interweb of culture, of families creating different recipes with different vegetables they never tasted. And one of those vegetables was okra. Um, Families were interested of the way it looked, or what is it? It looks like a chile, but it's not spicy. So how do you cook it? And they would pick grids that they're not familiar with to try it out and rely on those recipes that we provided them of how to cook it, how to harvest it, and they like it and they create their own recipes, Latino recipes with okra. So yeah, it's great.
That sounds delicious. uh, um, that's excellent. Do you find that like families keep once they discover something new, they keep growing it year after year, and like those things kind of start to incorporate themselves into their everyday diets a little bit more?
Yeah, definitely. If they really love something, they'll keep growing, and not only that, they'll want to try more stuff from that like country. They'll say, "Hey, I
Mhm.
tried this. Maybe like I will try something else from somewhere else." And they get once you start gardening, it's hard to stop. So you're just like, I want to try this and I want to try that and I want to try this. So it is like an exciting experience. Like there are obviously gardeners that are like more hesitant and they're like, no, like I would rather stick to like what I know and what I feel comfortable with. But there's also like gardeners that get like super into it and like are like, I want to try everything you can give me. So
That's awesome. Um, it makes me think a little bit about kind of the other health benefits around gardening and like uh, even outside of just like the healthier food you have access to. And I'm curious whether that's something you've seen an impact in people's lives or whether that's a part of the way Valle Verde thinks about the importance of access to gardening and food sovereignty in that way.
yeah, especially during like the pandemic, that became very like evident. Like and a lot of people weren't like having to quarantine like and they didn't know like what else to do with all that time, and it was like really stressful for a lot of families. And a lot of families that were gardening at that time were saying that it's helped with my mental health, it's helped me from like being depressed, it's helped with my health issues. So like with health issues, we like chronic illnesses, we do ask about that question, and a lot of families do report like a significant difference, whether it's like with managing their obesity or like diabetes or depression. Those are like the big ones that we always like get information on, saying like I've made improvements in the year that I've been like gardening, because you're taking time to garden, you're taking time to water and pull out weeds and to harvest and to prune, and gardening doesn't stop. Like you have to constantly take care of it. There's so many like things involved and pets involved, so you're constantly doing something outdoor and you're not just sitting at home like inside your house all the time.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really good. Another thing that the families were able to learn about is nutrition. From the workshops we do provide, you know, the vegetable of the season or the month, and what benefits it has. For example, I'm going to use bitter melon. I've always used bitter melon in most of my talks because I found out that it helps with diabetes. And I am an actual believer because I had type 2 diabetes and I started eating bitter melon, and it went away. I've heavily, preached the whole bitter melon thing. But you have to do resources. Like you can't say I'm going to eat bitter melon and it's going to go away. You have to have a certain diet and, integrate healthy eating, and the bitter melon did help. I learned that one of the families participants were using bitter melon to make a milkshake or some sort of a smoothie for her husband, for diabetes. And she's just very happy of how it was working for him because he was getting dialysis. And I guess something about the insurance, and it was becoming very costly. And once she started doing her little research about bitter melon, it helped out a lot, and they don't have to rely so much on dialysis. But this is just from stories. It's not. I'm not a doctor or any. I'm not saying go eat a bunch of bitter melon. I don't recommend it because I ate some one time a lot and I got a tummy ache. So you have to properly eat it. Do your research. And that's something that we help families learn also, different ways to cook it, because it does stick to its name, bitter melon, so it is bitter. And there's different ways you can take away the bitterness. And there's recipes all over the web, and chefs and cooks that can probably share information as well.
The other part, like I want to add, is when a lot of families like go to the doctor, they're saying like, hey, these are the health issues that you have, and they're giving you a diet plan. I'm not sure what your guys' experience has been like with that, but most of the time, I'm like the diet plans are showing you need to eat oats, you need to eat salads, you need to eat like all the mainstream diet plans that they like give you. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, this is not my diet. I don't follow this. There's no way I will stick to this for more than 1 or 2 days. So we really like the reason we offer those recipes, because we want families to actually like think about like, this is what I actually eat, and these are ways I can modify it to make it healthier and like better for myself, rather than thinking like, okay, I have to completely change my lifestyle, the way I eat and what I grew up eating, I have to give all of that up, right? Like we like I don't think it's really like helpful or easy to give up like such a huge part of your culture. So that is something that we really want to like start shifting as well. Like you don't have to give up everything you grew up eating. You can make like different ways. You can eat it in a different way that actually is healthy for you.
And I think it's important to structure the way we think about changes in our diet realistically in that way, because it's you mentioned it's not fun or easy to change your diet completely, but it's also not healthy to shift away from a diet that is culturally appropriate, and it's important that diet plans be culturally sensitive. So that's important work that you're doing. Um, I wanted to jump back. One thing I've been thinking about through our conversation is Rita mentioned that kind of your programs are successive. People can start out with the shared garden and move on to deep roots and move on to super jardineros. And correct me if I'm getting those details wrong. But I'd just love to know kind of how you've seen like people grow through kind of a longer relationship with Valle Verde, how many people you see have a longer relationship with Valle Verde, and um, maybe even a peek at like kind of the different levels at which people can engage in those ways.
So it really varies. The thing that like with our programs, we've been shifting them a lot. So the some of the programs that we have, like the Deep Roots, that was a pilot program that we started this year. So this is the first time we're doing it. It actually has been like really, really like successful. There's been so many families that are like that were really excited about it. So it's telling us, right, like it's not just the first year that they can learn, like that's the beginning level. Like second year is when they can really like dive deeper into it and say like, this, oh okay, like this is how I can like actually be more sustainable and how I can build some self-sufficiency. So in that sense, like we have, is still like a process that we're working on, but there's always like families that have been like in our program since like the beginning. Like they were like the first person to actually join, or like 5-6 years ago they were in the program. They reach out and say, do you have any seedlings, like I would like to continue growing more, I want to try these varieties. And in that way, like there's been families like that continue to build that relationship with them and continue to be involved. And we are trying to like figure out ways that we can provide families like a way to stay connected with others, but also like build more like leadership skills, so they don't have to like just rely on Valley Verde to constantly like provide the kind of seedlings they're looking for. They can actually go out and actually like ask for that from local neighborhoods, not just having to travel like so far from, because we used to work with like Gilroy families as well. So it can be a challenge for families to have to drive so far.
Mhm.
Yeah, we also have a seedling subscription. Lovepreet, did you want to talk about that a little bit?
Sure. So there, if family is interested in supporting Valley Verde's work, or just helping us, helping like continue to support other families that are going through a shared garden program or deep roots program, they can actually sign up for that subscription where they either pay like for the whole year, or they can pay monthly, but they get seedlings in fall and they get seedlings in spring, or they can actually purchase that for someone else that they know really enjoys gardening. And it's just a way for you to do both, like something that you love and increasing that food access, but at the same time helping other families, like providing the same gift for other families at the same time. So
Thank you. I'm just going to put your link down below for anybody who's interested about in looking at the seedling subscriptions or any other Valle Verdes projects. Go to www.valleyverde.org. Also, thank you so much to everybody who's tuning in. Thank you for your comment, Stephanie. Feel free to drop some questions in these last few minutes of our conversation if this convo has sparked any curiosity for you about the work of Valle Verde. Valley Verde. Thank you. I got in the habit of one and haven't switched back. Thank you so much for this window kind of into the different projects. I was wondering if kind of in these last few minutes you can kind of share maybe if there are any like stories of big aha moments that families have had that kind of guided you in this work in the last few years at all. I'm wondering if there's any impact in particular that has struck you as maybe unexpected, or kind of ways you've seen people maybe understand the importance of food sovereignty and food access in ways that because these are kind of like sometimes are heady terms that people don't understand kind of like right off the bat, or they can just turn into kind of buzzwords. And so I think part of the importance of Valley Verde's work is the way that kind of you make um, these terms real for people. And I'm curious if you've seen that impact for anybody.
I think so. I think a lot of families reach out towards the end of the program, towards the end of the year, very happy because they would talk about how nothing grew for them. And since they've joined Valley Verde, like they've had, produce growing in their own backyard. And before they wouldn't know how to water it or take care of it. And, towards the end of the year, things get a little bit easier because the land is a little bit moist and you don't have to water it so much. And they're just really, really grateful. And they show their appreciation either through emails or texting us or calling us and letting us know, thank you so much. And they want to continue. And for us, it was a little challenge. That's why we created the Deep Roots, because we had first year, we had second year, but now they still want to continue. So when we, like Lovepreet said, it was a pilot program. When we opened it up, we reached out to alumni, sent an email blast and saying, hey, this program is opening up. If you're interested, sign up. And I was a little bit skeptic. I was like, are we going to get families to register? And we were only shooting for 20 people, and we went over that. I believe someone was from 2015, 2017. And I was just like, wow, they really enjoyed Valley Verde and they want to stay connected and they want to learn more and more. And I think it's important to develop more programs, whether it be, I don't know, more gardening, finding out something different, hydroponics probably, or I just some way of gardening that someone's able to do it in their home or in their garage or anywhere. And it's important. It's really important because it's not taught anymore. It's not taught in the schools as much. Now, it's a lot of politics and policies and writing and math, and we're losing that culture of learning how to garden, how to grow your own food. And I think it's one of the things that's very important to learn, because you need to learn how to survive, how to grow your food. And that's one of the main things that keeps us alive, is growing and eating food. So it's really important. So we want to bring that culture back and put it into the schools, and we're doing it little by little.
And I would add that some of the participants that we've had are actually teachers, and they get so excited about like being in this program and like learning and being able to have like a family like working together in the garden, that they actually want to figure out ways that they can start that at their own schools and encourage like the administrators to start doing that and start teaching kids. And that's been really like exciting. But for me, like what like really like shows like a lot of motivation is when they just send us like 10, 12 pictures of their garden. Like they're like, look at this, look at that, and they're like so excited. And it's just like, do you see this cucumber, like do you see this pepper? And it's like, yeah, like, and it's like seeing their enthusiasm, seeing their motivation, like it's super exciting. And we've had families that like come in and they're like, I don't know what's wrong with my plants. And like being able to like spend like that half an hour or whatever, like answering their questions. And when they leave, they're like, oh, like I feel like I know what I'm gonna do now. And I don't like, there's that like idea, right? Like of having a black thumb where you can't grow anything. And personally, I'm like not a believer of that concept. I think it's just that we're starting at a level that we're not ready for, or we don't have the guidance and support to be able to grow something. So if you can give that person a sports system and being able to show them like this is how you can grow something and start at like with the easier plants, then you can kind of build that up, build that knowledge up, and be able to grow something that you're really super excited about growing. So I think that's just like just seeing that like happiness from families like is really motivating.
Yeah. I wanted to touch back on the aha thing. One of the things that I've noticed, families, they light up and they're like, what, is with loofah. So we mentioned loofah seedlings, and then you see their faces like puzzled, like loofah, the thing you wash your body with, the thing you use to scrub your body and take a bath with. And so we either have one in display or show, yeah, we grow it, and then it comes from a plant. But a lot of families don't know you can eat it. So you can grow it for that purpose of bathing, or you can grow it to eat it. And families are just like, wow, like I didn't know it grew on a plant. They just thought it was like a sponge or something from the sea, and they just light up and like ding, the light bulb, you see it go off. And so moments like that, it's amazing. I love it. I enjoy it. And you see that also when their seedlings are poking through the soil and they're that small and they're just like, it's growing. I did something. So it's just amazing. I love it.
That's beautiful. And it's the loofah example speaks to what you were just saying about like connecting people to like the real things that we need to survive and that we use in our daily lives, and kind of the importance of kind of maintaining those skills in our families and in our communities in order to kind of support us in perpetuity. Um, since you mentioned loofah, and because you just showed me a moment ago, Lovepreet, would you be willing to show us the Valley Verde food sovereignty warriors? And I also know they're kind of connected to like ways people can become food sovereignty warriors. I was wondering if you can tell us a little bit about that.
So are you guys able to see the t-shirt?
Yes.
So we want to really encourage families to like get familiar with the concept of like food sovereignty. When we hear like that like word, it's just like, oh, what does that mean? Like it's such a scary like word, it's such a big word. Like how do I even like get involved, how do I do something with this? So like we created this like little characters. Let me see. So there's like a chili pepper, and there's a loofah in the middle, and there's like a okra. And we're putting this on t-shirts because we really want people to kind of start like getting curious about what it means to grow your own food, to have that choice, to have that voice, and like what start questioning that, right? Like if we are not understanding that concept, there's still like decision makers that are not listening to our voices, right? Like they're because we are not either we're not speaking up or we're not uniting to like talk about this. So like I was talking about earlier, like if you give yourself a voice, right? Like if you give say like this is what I want, then the systems have to change. So this is just like a small way, like it's a t-shirt, and we are actually having a little challenge. So if you want this t-shirt, you if you complete this challenge, you can actually get a free t-shirt. But it's more like encouraging to be like involved in like our work, getting that visibility out, so like other people that have never heard of us can actually say like, hey, there is something that exists that is meeting the needs of our community, and we're not just like having to wait around and see or just say like, well, there's nothing I can't eat. I can't eat like the vegetables that I grew up eating. I just have to like lose that part of myself. Like we really want people to kind of start talking about it and start like noticing it and start kind of like even not just like evaluated, but anyone like any local organizations that are teaching families to grow their own food and encouraging that to participate, to go out and support those local organizations and see how that like changes a lot of things and be how you can be more involved with that process. So
Yeah. So if you guys want a free t-shirt, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and there's a little challenge to do, and you'll get a free t-shirt.
That's a beautiful note to be wrapping up on. Just for anybody who's interested in being a part of your shared garden program, because I know you're recruiting now, or is interested in going to your nursery or your demonstration garden, can you just review really quick how people can do that and engage with Valley Verde?
Sure. You can email me or go to our website at www.valleyverde.org or email me, Rita, at valleyverde.org. And just let me know that you're interested in the program. I will send you a link to the application. Fill out the application. We will be doing this, receiving applications until the end of November. After we review the application, we'll reach out and we'll have an orientation and schedule an appointment to meet with you and meet the space where you would like your garden. So it's that simple.
That's great. Thank you so much, Rita. Thank you so much, Lovepreet. I just want to remind everybody that La Hora del Mitote is our online speaker series. If you want to watch a previous La Hora del Mitote, or if you missed part of this one and you want to rewatch from the beginning, you can watch on our YouTube channel, on our Facebook page, and on our website, www.teatrovision.macario. If you want to learn more about Valley Verde, you can go to www.valleyverde.org. There's the link. And if you want to engage with Teatro Vision's work in more ways, you can do so by purchasing a ticket to Macario, our upcoming show, October 13th through 23rd. You can find more info on our website at www.teatrovision.org/Macario. We look forward to seeing you all at our next La Hora del Mitote here on Facebook and on our YouTube channel. I'm Jacob Yoderschrock. Thank you so much, Rita and Lovepreet, for joining us again. And I hope everybody has such a lovely night. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.
thank
Good night.
you.
Thank you.